So we're going to look at three problems from the homework, and I'm going to give you an assist on this. So let's look at number 11. So the first thing you have to ask yourself on number 11 is, how do we get rid of the fraction? Usually that's one of the things we want to do off the bat, is get rid of the fraction because it makes the equation easier to deal with. So how do we get rid of the fraction? So let's kind of look at our numbers here. So our denominators are 7, 7, and 14. So I want to get rid of them. And the best way to do that is to think about what would be a common multiple that each of those numbers divide into. So think of it just like adding. If I wanted to add these fractions, 2 sevenths, 1 seventh, and 3 14ths, what would be the common denominator that I would use? So what number does both 7 and 14 go into? What is the lowest number that they both go into? So why don't you right now think about what would that number be? Okay, so once hopefully you've thought that through, and you realize that the number that the lowest number that they all go into, 7, 7, and 14, would be the number 14. So we're going to take 14 and we're going to multiply it to each term. So the terms being 2 sevenths m, negative 1 seventh, and 3 14ths. So we're going to take that 14 and multiply it to all of them. So why don't you go and do that right now? So in going and doing this, I'm going to go and do it. So 2 sevenths times 14. So 14 divided by 7 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So this becomes, the first term becomes 4m, minus 14 divided by 7 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. And then 14 divided by 14 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. And of course, the nice thing about this is we no longer have any fractions. So from here on out, we're just going to solve as we would normally do. So let's go and do that. So I want to get rid of that 2. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Now think about what you need to do next in order to solve. Hopefully you realize that you needed to divide by 4. So our answer is m equals 5 divided by 4. The next problem we're going to look at is number 14. So think about what we just did in number 11. So think about what we did. We wanted to clear the fraction. How did we clear that fraction? Right now what I want you to do is see if you can clear the fraction. So pause this and figure out what number you're going to multiply through by to clear the fraction. So in this case, I'm looking for a common multiple that both 2 and 8 divide into. And the lowest one in this case is 8, because 2 times 4 is 8, 8 times 1 is 8. So I'm going to multiply through everything by 8. So right now, pause this and go multiply through by 8. Okay, so when you multiply through by 8, 8 divided by 8 is 1. 1 times x is 1x, or x. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 times 1 is 4. And 8 times 6 is 48. Right now, pause this video and finish it up. So for me, I'm going to add 4 to both sides, and I get x equals 52. Okay, the last problem that I'm going to look at. Let's see what we got here. I have a little problems here. Moving. Whoops. Okay, so the last problem that we're going to look at here is number 16. Now, number 16's ask is a little different because it's asking you to do a couple things here. It's not only asking you to solve, but it's asking you to name the property. So let's kind of go through it. I'm just going to kind of quickly over to the right-hand side, list the properties that we have so far. So our properties are the addition property. So I'll do this in blue. So addition property. So we'll call that property number 1. And then property number 2 is the subtraction property. And both of these are of equality. I'm going to abbreviate because I'm running out of room. And the reason they're called of equality, right, is because when I add something to both sides or subtract something to both sides, it keeps the expressions equal to each other. So then there's the multiplication property of equality. And finally, the division property of equality. So think about what your first step is going to be. If you're normally, when you're solving this, what would be the first thing that you would do? And I'm going to actually, just so you know, I'm going to do this problem below this, all this writing that I've done. So right now, think about what's going to be the first thing that you're going to do. Just so you know, I'm going to clear the fraction like we did in problem number 14. So I'm going to start there. You don't have to start there, but that's where I'm going to start. So think about, how do we clear that 3 from the denominator? Okay, so normally what we do, right, if I wanted to clear that 3, so I'm going to just write this problem again below. So we have x over 3 minus 7 equals 11, and we want to clear that 3. So we normally multiply, right? We multiply through by 3. So what property is that? So why don't you right now think about what property is that? 1, 2, 3, or 4? I think you would agree that is property 3, right? Is the multiplication property of equality, because we are multiplying. So I'm going to say multiplication property of equality. Okay, so let's go and do that multiplication. So right now, why don't you pause the video and do that? So for me, I'm going to do that. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 times x is 1x, or x. 3 times 7 is 21. And 3 times 11 is 33. So let's think about now, what would be your next step? So right now, think about what would you do in order to solve for x? So pause the video and do that. So hopefully you would agree that you'd get rid of that minus 21. And how do we do that? We'd add 21 to both sides. So right now what I want you to do is name the property that allows you to do that. Okay, so hopefully you recognize that the property you would use is property number 1, the addition property of equality, right? So we would use the addition property of equality. And that would leave us with x equals 54.